Welcome to the Work Wonders podcast, where we simplify HR for small business. I'm Angela.
And I'm Susan. Let's dive into today's episode and see what you've been wondering about.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about workplace culture and giving you some ideas of simple changes you can make to improve the culture at your business. We're going to talk about what makes culture, what culture influences, and how you can influence the culture of your business. So let's get started. This is the Work Wonders podcast. Have you ever had really bad customer service from a business? Like the waiter, Susan, who doesn't care clearly.
Oh, yes, or that shop assistant who seems to wish you far enough. You're just a nuisance coming into their shop.
Yeah. I'm sure you've also had magnificent customer service where you were so impressed that you told everyone about it. But both of those are reflections of the culture of the business.
And Angela, as you know, today I'm really keen to talk about workplace culture. I know we plan to get to this later in the series, but it is such a vital foundation for so much else. It feels like it's important to get to it this early. We hear so much reference to culture these days, and it can sound a bit overwhelming, really. It also sounds a bit fluffy when you're flat out dealing with the day-to-day reality of running a business in these trying times. You have a very simple way of explaining culture. Can you share that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So for me, I think if your business was a person, how would you describe their personality? What are they like? What's their tendencies? What are their values? What sort of person are they? Introvert, extrovert, all that sort of thing. How would you describe them that way? I find it's a really easy way to just put it into a personality and to help, to think of it that way.
Yeah, I love that description. And I also love the more traditional, I guess, of it being the way we do things around here. And really, culture is a combination of both.
So how would you describe the culture in your business? Is it a healthy or productive culture? Or there are some parts that you'd like to change? And do you wonder if change is even possible?
Well, we're going to get to that last question a bit later. But first, let's take a look at what influences the culture in your workplace. As usual, it's often easier to picture an abstract concept like this if we have a physical analogy. And like so many analogies, we're going to use an iceberg. It seems a very popular one. But if your culture was an iceberg, the bit we see above the water represents the outcomes of your culture. An outcome may be the poor customer service you experienced and potentially your decision not to go back there.
Oh, okay. So what's beneath the surface, Susan?
Well, quite close to the surface are the behaviours that create the outcomes. In our poor customer service example, it could be that the grumpy behaviour of a sales assistant has been ignored or accepted by their boss.
Okay, and is there more?
Well, yes, of course there is, because it's an iceberg and there's a lot under the surface. So that's what I love about icebergs. There's always more hidden in the depths. So in the case of culture, the most hidden parts are the underlying structures and systems that contribute to the behaviour, be it good or bad. So in every organisation I've encountered, and I'm sure you know what I mean, Angela, there are things that happen so regularly that they're just accepted and never questioned.
Yeah.
So, for example, the cranky waiter giving really bad service may well be working long shifts because that's how it is for many in the industry these days, and feeling that they're not appreciated for the effort they put in.
And that could certainly influence the behaviour.
Exactly. So before we look at how and why you want to turn that around, there's something important you need to understand. This is so important. I always emphasise this. Every culture, whether be it positive or negative, exists because it's serving someone. So one key to understanding your culture and how to change it is to ask, who does the current culture serve? You may be surprised where that power sits within your organisation. We could give you a few tips to help you discover this. Just get in touch with us directly if you're curious about what you need to find out. So we've talked about what influences culture, but why should you care about it? So let's look now at what your workplace culture impacts upon.
So, Susan, HR professionals like us are always going on about the importance of good culture, but it's more, like you said, more than just the touchy-feely stuff. If you want a productive and profitable business, You're also going to need motivated workers who are collaborative, engaged, not just in the work that they do, but with the organisation as a whole, the values and the strategy, where you're going, and a place where people want to come to work and do a good job for you. You can see how workplace culture trickles down to every part of the business. Employee morale, teamwork, productivity, efficiency, staff retention, job satisfaction, and business performance are all factors influenced by company culture.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a study by Glassdoor found that employees consider company culture has a bigger influence than salary on their job satisfaction. Job satisfaction, we know from the statistics, affects all other areas of your business. So getting the ideal culture for your business is not easy. Perhaps you're feeling a bit uneasy about your culture, but you're just not sure what you should be looking for. There are some definite signs that you might have a toxic culture at your place. Have you noticed any of these? Do you have defensive employees who are protective of their projects and not open to new ideas or constructive criticism? That could be a sign. Have you noticed a lack of transparency, honesty and accountability? If employees don't feel comfortable owning up to mistakes or asking for help when they need it, you have a problem. A third sign might be if you have cliques, gossip going on in the workplace and workplace bullying. Did you think of any more while I was going through that list? Believe me, that awareness, especially of your own culture, is a very good place to start.
So there is a lot to unpack there, Susan. I'm thinking, what if we have a listener who's thinking about their own business and their culture and they haven't got the culture that they want? What can we suggest for them?
Yeah, this is a very hard question to answer because obviously every business is different, isn't it? But of course, we're going to give it a try. The first thing I'd say is that it's not impossible to change culture, especially if you're the one in charge. The second thing I'd say is it's not easy, even if you are the one in charge. We've both been through culture change efforts a few times now, Angela. What have we learnt along the way?
Well, Susan, the first thing I'd think about is doing an audit, really, of the culture. So I'd recommend defining the desired culture that you want in your business. So think about those values and what properties are important to your business. Then decide if your current workplace culture meets that desired benchmark. If it does, you're all set. You don't need any more advice from us.
Lucky you.
But to identify what improvements need to be made to your culture, you need to assess that current state of things. Like you were saying, is there something going on, patterns of behaviour there?
In the thick of it, you might not be able to see the wood for the trees. Therefore, you may get more value out of this exercise by bringing in an expert pair of eyes to help you interpret what you're observing. Hi, it's Susan here. Did you know my business, Balance at Work, also does executive coaching? If you're looking to develop the emerging leaders in your business or build new skills in your leadership team, simply get in touch via the Work Wonders website, workwonderspodcast.com.au. So this is your first action item. Start with a clear picture of your current culture. The second step is to define your purpose and values and how you want them observed in your organisation. You can't know what you're doing until you know why you're doing it. Businesses whose staff don't understand business goals show symptoms of dysfunctional workplace culture. Values have to mean something to your employees and be clearly demonstrable. That means they need to know what actions show that they're aligned with your values. A focus on hiring for cultural fit will also feed into your recruitment strategies as your business grows. There are reasons to be cautious though, which we'll cover elsewhere. So, second action item, set measurable performance indicators that are linked to your organisation's values. This will help employees feel personal responsibility and pride in upholding your company's ethos.
The third step, Susan, would be that teamwork makes the dream work. Effective leaders foster an environment that makes collaboration easier. Open and honest channels of communication, for instance, is a must. How well does your team communicate with one another? Do your team members feel threatened by feedback? Do you feel threatened by feedback? These are the kind of questions that you need to regularly ask yourself if you're managing a team. Encourage your staff to interact with different people across the business to nurture a more collaborative environment. And please don't hold a team building day, then carry on as you did before.
Oh no, please don't.
So our third action item is fostering an open, respectful and honest two-way communication channel between you and your employees, and identify the best ways to give and receive feedback. And our fourth one, Susan, is empower and include all of your employees.
Great.
A positive workplace makes your employees feel valued and nurtured and supported, whatever their gender or colour or sexual orientation. Ensure all your employees have access to equal opportunities to thrive in your workplace. Be inclusive by making individuals feel that their differences are valued. A strict zero tolerance policy and comprehensive complaint procedures on workplace bullying are essential. And we'll be taking you through those in a future episode. So the fourth action item is to listen to your employees' grievances or problems and suggestions for their improvement. And you can also track your progress by surveying your staff.
So in summary then, every organisation needs to regularly review its company culture, no matter how big or small they are, and put strategies and processes in place to help its employees thrive. You'd agree with that, Angela?
Absolutely.
Thought you might.
And Susan, I think a good employee culture or workplace culture makes it easier to retain staff.
Exactly. So without regular review, business cultures can start to operate less efficiently and less productively. And that doesn't matter, you can have the greatest goals, the best strategy. But remember, as management guru Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. The best strategic plans and know-how count for nothing if you don't have the culture that can deliver them.
And you've got a free survey, don't you, Susan, on your website? And we'll pop a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely.
And remember, it's often the customers who first notice the emerging cracks. We hope you got some helpful takeaways from today's episode about workplace culture. We talked about what it is, why it matters, and how you can influence culture. There's a whole lot more we could talk about this topic, so don't be surprised if we revisit it soon. Maybe you've got some culture-related questions you'd like us to answer. In the meantime, do you know what to do next to improve the culture in your business? Have you noted some action items? It can be easier than you think to get started. As usual, you'll find the show notes with the links we've talked about to the resources we've mentioned on our website.
Thank you for listening to the Work Wonders podcast. Hit subscribe now so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's, why not tell your friend and maybe even leave us a review? So what have you been wondering about? You can pop onto our website, workwonderspodcast.com.au, and let us know. We'll talk to you again soon.